Wheatflour Wonderland for Hello Kitty Island Adventure launches Thursday, September 18th. We're only days away at this point, and everybody is really excited and waiting and wanting to play, and I'm already 20 hours in. I got to play Wheatflour Wonderland early, courtesy of Sunblink, so that does mean I did get to play free and early. I will still be buying it on Apple Arcade and on Switch, and will be streaming it on both of those. So the footage you see in this video is going to be a combination of the promo footage and stuff I recorded on Steam Deck. I will say, this being before launch day, this is not a video that's going to give you a solid idea of performance, resolution, and things like that. My setup was probably less than ideal, and I'm playing on Steam Deck. However, I'll give you an overview of the types of things you can expect, avoiding spoilers for the most part. But if for you, knowing like the number of critters in the game would be too spoilery for you, or you haven't looked at any other information about it, this is probably not your video. But we'll go through an overview of the types of things that are in it, how far I've gotten at this point, an overview of things to keep in mind, some of things like tips and vague ideas in the realm of things I wish I had known, as well as overall impressions and would I recommend it at this point. So at this point, I played about a week. On a pretty advanced save, I have about 20 hours. I did also play a little bit on my very early game save, so I could see what it was like from that perspective too. And at this point, I have caught 8 out of 10 new critters. I've unlocked 4 wand types, 3 avatar palettes, 3 minigames, and yes, one of the minigames is multiplayer only, but I do really like that you can still play that one with a friend who doesn't have the DLC, and your friend gets to keep their points. They can't turn them in, but if they ever get the DLC in the future, they get to keep their points for that, and the game is really explicit about telling you that, so I like that. So if you have a friend who wants to get the DLC but they have to wait, they could still play that mini game with you, and then when they get it themselves, they'll have those points and have kind of a little head start on some of the items. And I found at least 3 new puzzle mechanics. I won't tell you what each of those things are. We'll look at those in the live streams. I did also want to go over some of the main questions that I think a lot of us have going into the DLC, such as how many days am I going to have to wait until I can actually get to the DLC, especially Apple Arcade players thinking back to when City Town dropped. We all thought we were playing on day 1 and then we had to wait. None of that with Wheatflour Wonderland. You can play right away. You are in Wheatflour Wonderland so quickly. No waiting, no time locks, and you can do it really early game too. I did try it on my really early game save. I was level 8 with Curly, and the only thing I needed to do was the potion hunt quest, so you unlock the cauldron. I didn't need to do the whole series. I only needed to have the cauldron unlocked. I didn't need to unlock all the other recipes or do all the other different quests. So on that save, I could also enter Wheatflour Wonderland really quickly after logging in. So that's a super short quest. Now, if you are playing on an early game save, you may not be able to unlock and make everything. So if there's a creation station recipe and you don't have the creation station, you won't be able to make it. You don't really need to either. However, even if you don't have flowers yet, you can still get the wheat flowers. And even if you haven't unlocked weather on Friendship Island, you'll still have weather in Wheatflour Wonderland. And for the most part, Wheatflour Wonderland is pretty self-contained. I didn't go through everything with my early game save, so I'm not totally sure if there might be other friendship levels with the other friends that might block some of the quests. You might need a couple materials from Friendship Island, but you should probably have things like 5 sticks. I did encounter 1 recipe I needed from Friendship Island, but it's one you could find in a chest. And so because of that, even if you are really early game, you can still progress in Wheatflour Wonderland, explore it and experience it, and not have to worry. However, I will say having buddies helps so much. And if you can have 2 buddies, it is so much easier. So part of the experience might be different, but you can still play and explore. But if you do have 2 buddies, I think you're going to find yourself using them. There are also some things missing from Wheatflour Wonderland, which I really appreciated. First off, if you've been playing on Apple Arcade, may have experienced an extensive quest with fishing with Batsmaru. No fishing. So far, 20 hours in, 1 week in, I have not fished at all. After I record this, I'm gonna go take out my fishing rod and make sure I'm not just missing something. I don't think I saw any collections with fish. So far, no fishing, and I know some of you are gonna be really excited about that. Also, another one, no time locks. There's no arbitrary time locks, no water this beanstalk for 3 days. I didn't hit any quests where it was like wait until tomorrow, and I really like that because I wasn't feeling like, oh. And so far as we know, no secret ones. Looking at you, bats. where the quest pops up a day later, 2 days later, 3 days later, full week later. None of that so far, which I really appreciate. And if you've ever seen my live streams, you know every time there's an update, I feel like at least once we go to do a quest and we end up doing a completely different one, because for some reason the game has prioritized that one over the one I want to do. And you know, strategic buddying, sometimes you can block quests if you're really creative and lucky. I didn't really have to do very much of that. I always got to do the Wheatflour Wonderland quest that I wanted to do, and I'm playing on Steam, which means I also had Content Update 3 on there, and the quest didn't get in my way. One quest got in my way, but it was a visitor quest. It was short, wasn't really anything I could do about it, and that's not going to be everybody. But I was able to just play. Now, because your quests are not locked by time, one thing that they can be locked behind is friendship. So some of the quests are locked behind friendship levels with Kojimune, but even with that, overall the game seems to flow pretty well, and you always have more stuff to do in the meantime. The game actually tells you what friendship level you need to get to before the next quest, and you get to see that in the quest log so you know what's coming up. If a quest is dependent on another quest being done, you will also get to see that in the quest log, and so I felt like I had a pretty good idea of what I'd need to do to get to that next step if I wanted to. However, that also means things like friendship bouquets and blossoms are key. You've got a full set of deluxe bouquets and blossoms. That's gonna feel really different, I think, than if you're completely out of your regular ones. Now you can walk into the DLC with no regular friendship blossoms, and Hello Kitty will top those off. However, if you already have 3 regular friendship blossoms, Hello Kitty won't give you any more, so you might as well use those on other friends if you need to. But other than that, I think most of my advice in the prepping for Wheatflour Wonderland video, which I made before playing this, still mostly stands. And I should have said at the beginning, many of you know I did play the beta of this, and this video is not based on the beta. I did get to play a version of the game early, a version that is expected to be very, 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 very close, if not exactly like the launch day version. But keeping all that in mind, gifting Kojimune is going to be a key thing in the game, important for unlocking quests and progressing, and really the only type of gift you have to think about is her 1 heart gift. I'll probably have a video on that pretty early after it drops. But keep the usual things in mind when trying to figure out good gifts, just like we did with the base game. Refined things, more tags might get you slightly better. However, with 2 and 3 heart gifts, you don't have to think too hard because they're both locked behind quests. After you do a quest and then you go to gift Kojimune, you're like, oh wow, there's a 2 heart gift in my pocket. I'll give her that. So keeping that in mind, if you do have a quest open, you may want to do the quest and then gift Kojimune, and then use your blossoms and bouquets. I did the opposite, and it was still fine, but I do wonder, would I be a little bit further, a little bit faster if I had done it in the other order? Also with gifting, make sure you are always bringing Hello Kitty and My Melody when you're gifting Kojimune. Hello Kitty will boost how much friendship you're gaining, so I think if you only can bring one buddy, she would be priority. However, what Kojimune gifts you is pretty important as you progress, and as you get further along, you need more and more of it, so I'd be careful with what she gives you. It wouldn't hurt if My Melody gives you a little bit more. However, because what My Melody gives you is just a little bit more, I would probably prioritize Hello Kitty. Overall, the game does a pretty good job of telling you what you need to do. I feel like it explains things enough, and for the most part, doesn't do too much. Mostly, there are a few things that remain cryptic. I think there are some things that are going to take the community quite a bit of time to figure out, but that's okay because it's not like basic mechanic is hidden behind things. We don't have any fish almanac situations that I know of yet. Sometimes some of the things feel a little pushy, like maybe I don't need you to tell me that right now, but that was pretty rare. I'd say about 90% of it is well explained, solid, without getting in your face, and so I feel like maybe even more than on Friendship Island, there are pretty good ways to figure out what to do, how things work, and of course if you get stuck, we'll have video guides, and you can always ask questions during a live stream or in Discord. When it comes to the map is very not small. It is pretty big. There are a ton of fast travel locations. There's still one more on my list to unlock. There are a bunch of cabins. I have unlocked all of them. They are not upgradable. I'm pretty sure we already knew that. Getting to some parts of the map will be obviously blocked off. So no invisible walls this time. You can actually see them. And there's no Merry Meadows situation because the whole thing is built out, so you won't be able to jump over an invisible wall and go explore in progress areas because everything is done. And for the most part, the progress makes sense. There's like 1 or 2 things I would still like to be explained why, but it's not a big deal. I will say, one tip though, wands are key to getting places. I'll try to leave that vague. Once you're in game, you'll be like, oh, I know what you mean. But definitely prioritize making your wands. But for the most part, I didn't feel too blocked off. I still haven't gotten to everywhere yet. And you know the map is big. If there's 120 wheat hearts, they need places to go. I think currently I have 90 something of them. And in Wheatflour Wonderland, there are so many new things to collect. We have comics and CDs, just like we do on Friendship Island. There is a new machine to unlock, but so far it's not for cooking. And there is so much furniture and so much clothing. And after you unlock most things, they will show up in the shops so you can get more. And with the clothing, you can craft some of it. Some will show up in shops and you unlock it through quests. However, if you are a completionist and you want to be able to get one of everything in every color and variety, it'll probably take a really, really long time. And even though things do show up in the shop, if somebody is visiting your island and they don't have the DLC, chances are they don't have those DLC materials that the items cost in the shop, so they wouldn't be able to get them. I think that's a pretty good overview, but let's go over some tips, some of the things I wish I had known going into it. Gems. When it comes to gems, be really careful to save the rare ones. You'll be able to figure out which ones are rare by looking at the background in your inventory. Yellow background especially, don't use them on random things you find in the world. You can if you want to. You can take or leave any of this advice. You'll still be able to play the game just fine. I just know some of us want to be more efficient with our gameplay. It really doesn't matter if you are or not. And I will try to stay reasonably vague so you don't have much in the way of spoilers, but you will be needing several of each gem in order to make things and progress in some of the areas, so I would resist the initial urge to just use them immediately. Just like we saw in the trailer with unlocking the chests with the gems, you might want to hold off until a little bit later, until you see another use for the gems, as you can always go back for those later. But it's also totally up to you. You're not gonna ruin your game. It just might take you a little bit longer, or maybe you have to island bouquet again. But I would be especially careful with using any of those higher rarity gems, or if you're somebody who wants to get to new areas really quickly, I would definitely hang on to those gems and not use them in those little one-off areas immediately. Let's talk critters. You know, critters are one of my favorite things in the game, and there will be guides on how to catch each one of them. So far, I've only been able to catch 8 of 10, and these will be pretty important later on. So I'd say anytime you see a new critter, if you have time, catch like a dozen of them. Keep at least a dozen of them on you at any time. Future you will thank you. Let's talk about the mini games. They are fun. They are different. I think the first one you unlock is the easiest. You can unlock items and materials in the mini games, and you know exactly the prize you'll get from playing the mini game. And if you win, that prize will rotate into another one. But I would keep the mini games in mind, especially if you're looking for a particular material or you're low on a really basic material. This gives you an option where you know what you're going to get. So if you're stuck on materials, definitely remember to play the mini games. They might help you faster than doing island bouquets. And then you don't feel obligated to go and pick up everything a second time. In terms of materials though, one of the things I really appreciated about Wheatflour Wonderland, most of the early quests that wanted me to use things like gems actually respawn the items I needed, so I didn't have to worry about finding the right number of the right gem, or if I'd already picked up everything for the day, I didn't have to use an island bouquet to go get more. So definitely look around, pay attention to the dialogue, because chances are the quest just gave you all the materials you need, and all you need to do is go find them. However, there were a few on day 2, 3, I don't really remember, minor quests where I did end up using an island bouquet. That was partly because I had used up all my materials. So I would say you do want to have some island bouquets just in case. For those 1 or 2 times when maybe they don't respawn, maybe just don't go overboard cooking like I did. I would also suggest before the DLC, or maybe on the first day, take some of the friends off of auto-collect, because remember, if everybody's on auto-collect, you need to take them off, and then you can have them pick up a new material for you the next day. Having just a few of them, like 3 friends, even 2 friends, can be really useful, just in case you want them to pick up stuff for you. Or if you do use an island bouquet, you can focus on picking up stuff that they can't pick up, and then have them go get everything else for you. I know I've done that a few times when it's end of day. I was doing my last quest, I'd already picked up everything, and then I needed like 3 noodle grass or something, and I island bouqueted for it, and there was no way I was gonna go pick up everything else at the end of the day. So having the friends collect definitely helps me out there. Another tip, talk to everyone. Talk to everyone you meet probably more than once, because there's dynamic dialogue. Some of it is silly, some of it is actually really helpful, some of it is cryptic, and talking to them helps make the world feel pretty alive, and helps you understand some of the things that are going on, and sometimes might even help you with an achievement. One thing that I think is new for Wheatflour Wonderland, you may want to have notes. I know I always have a notebook next to me when I'm streaming, so as we figure things out, I can write them down when I'm making the guides. This is kind of different. I think this is something everybody could do, because there's going to be things you discover maybe early on that you don't end up using until later. So taking notes and having a way to organize your screenshots as you explore can definitely come in handy later. And if that's not your thing, don't worry, I'm pretty sure all of us content creators are planning on making videos on this later. But for those of you who like to figure this sort of thing out and are into exploring every little nook and cranny, you may want a way to keep track. And that kind of leads into one of the things that's kind of neat about Wheatflour Wonderland. At first, I thought it would be kind of annoying that I can't fully clear an area, but there's definitely layers. You will be going back to areas, and also because there's so many different things to make and collect, it has a lot of very long-term collection potential. So if you're somebody who wants absolutely one of everything, there is so much for you to collect. Not quite to the level of flowers, but it is extensive. And I mean collecting like one of every clothing, one of everything, whatever else. There are also a lot of achievements and collections, but not all the things you can collect are going to be in there. So don't worry if your goal is checking everything off. You're not going to need 26 colors of 59 outfits to do that. And overall, it feels new. There's new mechanics, but they don't feel like chores, which is a really big deal for me. While playing it, it was super fun. I was happy to play it. I could play it for hours. It does remind me of early game, but not quite in the same way. At the same time, not really overwhelming. Just, oh, this is fun to play today. Whether it was for hours or just an hour or two after work, I really appreciated not having any arbitrary time locks. I wasn't like, oh, today's the day where all I do is water the beanstalk. Also, after Batsmaru's recent questline, I love that I didn't have to go fishing. So I know one of the questions people are going to ask, is it worth it? On platforms like Steam and Switch and PlayStation, where it is the DLC and not already included in your subscription. And that's always going to be a question for you. Is it gameplay that you think you'll like? Is it in your budget? But in terms of does it feel priced appropriate for what it is? Easily. The mechanics are solid. The world is interesting. It feels like a totally new thing. It feels big enough to be justified as a separate purchase. I'm only 20 hours in and I'm not done with the main story yet, and there's tons more to play. So that already is giving me more than 1 hour of gameplay for $1, and the entire game has no microtransaction, and it comes with a ton of cosmetics, 3 avatar palettes, a ton of clothing, lots of cute little hats, and a ton of furniture, and any subset of those things in another game where there are microtransactions, any small subset of those would cost at least as much, and here I'm getting a whole new game and all of those items. So my preview was free. I played on my Steam Deck, but I do pay for my own Apple Arcade. I will be buying it again on Switch, and then we'll be streaming on both of those if you want to see what it looks like on day one, on Apple Arcade, and on a Switch too. I will say, initially I was thinking the aesthetics really aren't my thing. I feel like it looks better in game than I was expecting it to. And so for me, that's not the biggest selling point, but I did really actually enjoy playing it, and all the different style and details on the outfits looks really nice. I did end up really like wearing them too. And it's not all dresses. If you look at the preview images, any of the character outfits you can probably get for your character. And I appreciate that pretty early on you get both a suit and a dress, but for me it's the mechanics and the gameplay are so fun. I don't think you need to like the aesthetic of the world or the clothes. The mechanics and the gameplay alone are worth it because it feels new, it feels different, and while I was playing there was way more joy, way more fun than frustration, which is a really big deal for me. I don't do well with grindy games. I don't like being told to do chores, and the other thing is it does not feel like just another biome. And I think that's a really big part of why it makes sense to me as a DLC. And that's because it has that combination of not just the new look, but those new mechanics, new ways to play the game. I'm doing different things, and I love how goofy it is sometimes. And I think those mechanics are gonna carry us forward for quite a bit of time, being completely goofy with them. And on top of all that, it's Sunblink. It's a healthy company, which is really important in the current climate. I'm happy to support them. It doesn't feel like a cash grab like with other games, games I play. The price is reasonable based on what I get for it, and as a company, they seem like they do their best to listen to players and implement feedback where they can. I think it's a really nice example of what a healthy gaming company can look like on both their side and on their interactions with players, their clear communication, and that makes it so much easier for me to get a DLC like this, and it feels plenty appropriately priced for what it is, $14.99 US. Now on the other hand, if you don't have $14.99, totally makes sense. That doesn't mean the game is priced incorrectly. That's just a reality of the economy that we're in right now. But as I see other gaming prices going up and up and up, this feels plenty fair. Now there is no pre-order and there's no physical at launch. We haven't heard anything about any plans for a physical, so you would need to buy it and download it if you're on Switch or Steam on September 18th when it launches. If you're on Apple Arcade, that would be included with the subscription, so it'd be just like any of our update days. So you'll probably just have to go to the App Store, to the game page, and download it from there once it's ready. So Apple Arcade, Switch, and Steam all get it at the same time on the same day, September 18th. At least they're hoping the launch will be at the same exact time of day, although nobody seems to know what that is yet. Probably pretty early for US time zones, but not at Island Reset. And if you're on PlayStation 5, you have to wait a little bit longer, October, and it'll be a DLC on there just like Switch and Steam. But I'm excited for everybody to be able to play and explore this together, and especially to see all the silly photos and the fun outfits everyone makes. It will be streaming it on Apple Arcade and on Switch on launch day and a few days after. And of course, there'll be a ton of video guides on the channel. If you learned something about Wheatflour Wonderland from this video, be sure to give it a like so others can find it as well, and feel free to share it as people ask you questions. It really does help the channel, and it lets YouTube know it should show it to more people. Subscribe for more Hello Kitty Island adventure content. There is going to be a ton on Wheatflour Wonderland, and I still cover all the normal updates too. Remember, content update 3 for Switch and Steam drops on the same day as Wheatflour Wonderland, Thursday, September 18th. Turn on notifications to find out the next time we go live. Hope to see you there.